Welcome to Intrinsic Motivation from a Homie's Perspective podcast, where we meet experts from all walks of life to learn their intrinsic motivation so that they can share it with the world. What do we have in store today? Stay tuned to find out more. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. This is Intrinsic Motivation from a Homie's Perspective. This is Hamza.
And I'm David.
And today, before we get started, I'd like to give a shout-out to my homie, Leanne. Leanne wanted us to meet with some folks locally here. And if you want to get a shout-out like Leanne did, just go to intrinsicmotivation.life and click on the speaker pipe button. You can leave a voicemail of any subject matter you want us to talk about, and we will give you a shout-out just as well. So without further ado, we have on the phone right now Alberto Roman and Shana Robbins. Welcome to the podcast, you two.
Thank you so much, Hamza and David. It's great to be communicating with you and all your listeners. Greetings, and I hope this podcast brings benefit to all who come across it in their day or night or afternoon at the radio or
Hello.
It's nice to have you.
Yeah, nice to have you. We speak with people across the country, and we always have a soft spot in our heart for people that are right in our backyard. We have so many talented people here in the Atlanta and greater Georgia area that we definitely want to highlight folks that are here. So I think you would definitely fall into that category, both Alberto and Shana. I do know that you've been traveling extensively throughout the world, highlighting what you've done, and we'll get to that as we go down the line. But if you can just give us an intro of who you are and what you're currently doing and what people should know more about you.
Oh, well, thank you for that. There's different ways to situate myself right now. I would say that I'm a Costa Rican mystic who left the tropics, and has been a wonderful experience. I got an education in the States in psychology and in philosophy, and I always have had an interest in shamanic worldviews from very early on in my youth. I think Costa Rica influenced that a lot. I grew up amidst hummingbirds and orchids and all kinds of wild, beautiful beings. So that kind of triggered my imagination. And as the years went by, I dedicated myself to one of the many shamanic arts, the healing arts. So I worked as a psychologist and social worker throughout the States. I always had an interest in art and music, and I cultivated that alongside my other possibilities. And through that, I came across a way to reconnect with my roots through plant medicines, and from there it's been a wonderful journey. I've traveled through the Amazon and Europe and Bali, and here I am. Atlanta is my base. Beautiful Atlanta is filled with all kinds of creative people and subcultures that really don't get a lot of exposure. So yeah, it's been a beautiful, long ride. Shana, what about you?
Well, I am a multimedia or post-disciplinary artist, and also a professor. I teach a couple classes at Georgia State on the Dunwoody campus, and for the past few years, I've been assisting Alberto in his ceremonies and also engaging in my own practice, in which I use my body as a medium in much of my artwork, whether it be painting or performance or many different mediums. I use my body as a medium or a channeling kind of vessel for connecting with natural forces and non-visible forces in my work.
Have you heard this one? How many performance artists does it take to screw in a light bulb? I don't know.
Unseen.
3 hours. I don't know. I lived for 3.
Well, before we get started, I do have to ask you, Alberto, how could you leave one of my favorite places in the world, Costa Rica? We were before you guys had come on, David and I were talking about all the yoga retreats that they have there, and just the sights and the scene and the beautiful people. It's just really hard for me to leave. I'm always crying when I leave. It's such a great place, and you left. How often do you go back?
It's a beautiful question, and it's one that I work with daily. Costa Rica is so deeply embedded, beyond my bones that even when I'm not there, I carry that medicine with me. I had to leave because of life, trauma. I had to leave because of my own developmental histories. My family of origin split up, and then I have bonus parents that took me under their wing, and we came to the States. I go back as much as possible, every 2 years, every year. It depends on what's going on and where my energy is at. Last time I was there was about 4 years ago, and I'm planning to return for early December to hang out with some of my friends and the last remaining relative I have of my original family. So, yeah, I don't blame you, man. Costa Rica it's like a state of mind, isn't it?
Pura vida, man.
Yeah, you got it. See, Pura Vida should be like a mantra. We should like, different levels of Pura Vida awareness. From the simple just physical sensations of the sunlight and the sky and the breeze and the ocean to the deeper, ontological aspects of Pura Vida where life is just inherently good.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, hey.
No, I love it. I was just thinking of how having that mindset, it's just really interesting that I found that there's always groupings wherever you go, and there it's I met you in Costa Rica, and you wind up meeting people across the earth, right? Like, we're going to go to Europe next, we're going to go to Bali. And so I was kind of looking at a way of how you and Shana actually met and started working together. How did that happen?
I was, for a while there, I was one of the shamanic powers. There's all kinds of powers in the shamanic worldview. If I'm going to situate myself this evening in that worldview, and one of the shamanic powers is an artist. I mean, there's storytelling, there's healer, there's leader and student. There's ceremonialist. One of the things that I have cultivated is the artist part. And for a while there in Atlanta, I had a group called Woven Tongues. It was one of the forerunners of a lot of the stuff that's happening now, where you have ritual gatherings using music and poetry and dance in a communal setting where we try to elevate each other through those mediums, light, sound, texture. And Shana was brought to one of my performances by one of the local priestesses, goddesses, Shasta Zaring, who has been holding space here for a long time, to introduce her to me, and she was going down to Peru for a project that ended up being successful, and I'll let her talk about it after I finish this. And when she came back, she looked me up. She wanted to collaborate on an exhibit I think she had in Alabama, so I created some music for her around that, and then eventually, the changes happened, and things shifted for her and I, and then we ended up, coupling and exploring that part of life and love. Shana, you want to say something about Peru?
Yeah. So when I went down to Peru, I wanted to do a project there with the women, the shipiba women. And so I found a place, a healing center, through some friends in the circle of Shasta Zaring, who Alberto mentioned before, who introduced me to him. So I found a healing center run by Guillermo Arevalo called Espiritu de Anaconda. It's now called Anaconda Cosmica. And I wanted to work with women to sew a large-scale piece on lace. I brought the lace there, and I worked for about 2 weeks in the jungle with these women, sewing these patterns and painting these patterns onto this lace. It was a pretty incredible experience. And then while I was there, I sat in some of the plant ceremony settings in order to understand their visions and why they were painting and sewing these patterns. And so when I came back, I wanted to go deeper in, and Alberto and I actually collaborated on that project in which the sewn lace was used as a performance object. We collaborated on all of the sound for that piece, like the sonic transmissions. Yeah.
So let me ask you, with regards to retention, you were mentioning out in Peru, and you sat with the group, and obviously they had gotten some insight which kind of influenced their artistry. Was that more of a one-time thing, or was that an ongoing approach to reaching higher levels of their artistic expression? Or, I'm just trying to understand, is that some people would look at it as a crutch if you're looking outside of yourself, but I want to get your opinion using a plant medicine to reach greater awareness.
Is that question for Shana or for me?
I want Shana to tackle that, since you kind of led there, and then you can get into that, Alberto.
So if I'm correct, I think you're asking me if the visions created within plant ceremonies, or are you talking about the medicine can be used as a crutch, and it possibly is? I wasn't totally clear on the question. If you wouldn't mind clarifying.
Oh, no problem. I was looking at it from both aspects. I was looking at it for, some artists need some different stimulants, be it alcohol or some other things, right? And then they get into the zone. So I was kind of trying to approach it from that aspect.
Well, I understand what you're saying now. Yes. For me, the reason I was drawn to the shipiba is because one of their major archetypes in their cosmology is the cosmic anaconda. And when I was in grad school, I'd had a dream about this anaconda figure, and I've never really used entheogens or any kind of substances of alteration in my life much. But I had this dream, and so I found out about the shipiba, and that's why I was originally drawn to going there, and that's why I wanted to do this project. It really had nothing to do with the plant medicines. I wasn't planning on being a part of that when I went there. It was really just following the intelligence of my artwork and wanting to work with these women. And so the creative forces and the artistic forces were what led me in there. And it just happened that this was a healing center, so they were very much about using plant medicines. So more, I think, a technology than a crutch. It's a technology. It's a spiritual technology, and it's also a beautiful form of art that these visions come through. And not only are they visual mappings, but they're also sonic mappings. Like they sing these visions, and they sing these visual paintings. They will actually sing them. They're what's the word I'm trying to use? They are visual scores. So for me, it's not about transcendence as much as going deeper into these technologies and these spiritual practices.
Fantastic, thanks. Yeah, no, that definitely answers what I was looking for. And Alberto, you had mentioned going to Peru, Bali, and Europe. What has been your experiences in each place? Can you find certain themes, and how do they differ?
It's such a multi-level, complex question. Thank you for asking it. I'm involved in what I would consider a third millennium cross-cultural shamanic practice. What that means is that we use healing, inspiring, transformative technologies from the past and also are in tune and can utilize contemporary medicines and anything from physics to psychology to whatever will serve a particular community. What I have found out in my travels is that there is a deeper longing to feel embedded and alive and healed, and to have a vaster connection with the cosmos. I think the time we are living in is one that can be quite oppressive and violent, and also people are looking for ways intuitively to feel whole and beautiful. So regardless of the methodology that is used, and by that I mean in Bali they will use sound and dance and chanting and staging different kinds of ritual performances to connect with an imaginal realm or a divine realm, or whether it's in Peru and Machu Picchu and you're doing a San Pedro, or getting into deeper plant medicines with ayahuasca. The intent is to decelerate the speed of your life so you can connect and commune with the deeper intelligence that gives you a sense of purpose and meaning.
You said decelerate, which is interesting, because a lot of people that we've had on in recent weeks, they were talking about acceleration as far as time seeming like it's moving a lot quicker. And are you saying that people are using shamanic techniques to actually make an effort to slow that down, and they've been really successful in doing so?
Yeah. Well, that's the beautiful paradox of the work, because if you, I thought about it. I thought a little bit about the term acceleration, and in a way, it's kind of an incomplete account of what happens, because when you are gathered in a group and you sit down for 4 hours and are still, that gives you a time to start engaging your process at a very different rate. It might seem like an acceleration, but actually, absolute speed, absolute velocity is stillness. So when you're that still, you're allowing content to emerge, whether it's psychological, spiritual, cosmic. You now have access to dimensions of information you didn't have before. So I think it's actually a deceleration that gets interpreted as an acceleration, because folks are not used to the benefit and value of stillness. And that's what a lot of these ceremonies do at the onset. You're there with 12, 15 people, and you're just still, man. When does that happen in our cultures, in 21st century cultures that are based on sensation, velocity, stimulation? Unless you have some kind of yogic practice, you really don't get to savor those states. So I'm using deceleration deliberately to kind of clarify the language, because I think language does beget world, and there's a lot of stuff that gets spoken about, and it becomes true, and in reality I think it's a disservice to the medicine. It is about slowing down to a point of stillness where you let a deeper intelligence speak to you, and then you figure out where to go from there. So you see the paradox in it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. It makes me think of the movies where they say silence is golden. And to borrow from Tim Ferriss, he always talked about WMDs, which are weapons of mass distraction. And so, it just sounds a lot like we have these distractions, and sometimes people are really afraid of that silence. And you're saying that, getting together in that silence, it's very transformative.
It's consistently so in all the groups I've sat in the different practices. I mean, plant medicine is one vehicle that that we can engage with in order to seek transformation. As you know, there are other technologies available contemporary ones and ancient ones that do the same thing. I mean, a trance state is not you're not in a stupefied zone. You're actually clearer and are allowing more information to come in that you would not usually get in ordinary consciousness. So whether you're drumming or dancing or chanting, there are different ways to get to it. The benefit of the plant medicine is that somehow it's able to make transparent content in a way that those technologies don't. But the actual temporality of it, is it an acceleration or deceleration, might be ultimately irrelevant, as long as you're getting your groove on, you're getting your cosmic jam in order, so you can hang out here on this planet and be of value and be a contribution, not a drone or somebody who's not living their full life.
Can I say something about that?
Yeah.
I think part of that is, really connecting with the ecosystem, connecting with plants, animals, other beings, and I think that is tuning into a different time cycle, tuning into other life forces in a way that we are often distracted from, like you said.
I mean, do you have a practice?
Go ahead.
Do you have a practice? I mean, what's your practice? I mean, I know that you work a lot with I was looking at your website, so a lot of it is about motivation and being inspired. How do you maintain your openness and your joy for life and your juiciness? How do you stay green? In green, I mean, youthful and open, because I think part of what these medicines do is to be an antidote against the rigidity and restrictiveness of where they try to put us in. We get very easily involved in all kinds of loops, and some of these practices keep us alive and buoyant and vibrant. What's your practice?
Sure. Before, I always like to highlight a marriage, if you will, and so a lot of my training, and David as well, was with David can speak for himself, but for me, I had gone through the Horizon Center for Intuitive Awareness here in Atlanta, and we learned more about the grounding and being present and things like that. Yeah. And actually, last week, we had Jim Self on, who was from the West Coast, but he is known for the Berkeley Psychic Institute and all these other things, and we were always talking about the marriage between air energy, which more the psychic phenomena is known as, and marrying that with the earth energy, which more the shamanic realm. So I was looking at trying to marry the two.
Yes. Happy nuptials. We don't want abominable conjugations. We want happy nuptials, although we can learn from the abominable conjugations. Wonderful, man, wonderful. That's what I mean. We in some ways, we're so fortunate because even though there's catastrophic things happening throughout the planet, and there's huge shifts, there's also all these beautiful traditions that are out there, and we're exploring and advancing to see if we can move through another way of being in the planet. And a lot of it is just awareness. So much of it is a revolution in consciousness, and whatever technology gets you to be in a cooperative, harmonious state with nature and your people and your wherever you're at, your locality, and then definitely use it.
Well, I'd like to ask how you two balance the two, because as you mentioned, it's all about perception, and you had mentioned there's a lot going on in the world, but I would make the assumption that being in the dealing with the shamanic arts, your perception's different, so you may not pay as much attention as others who are being more so reactive to the news that they hear every day.
Well, I think that varies with the quality and of the person involved in shamanic arts, because I think if shamanism one of the powers is storytelling, then, who are the great storytellers of our time? I mean, there's incredible feminist intellectuals like Rosie Braidotti, who's doing post-anthropogenic thinking. She's gone beyond the Anthropocene into thinking what it would be like beyond that. And so there are folks at different levels coming up with new languages, because part of the solution is not using the same metaphors or metaphysical programs that got us to this place, is developing new languages and concepts to see how we move through it. So, as someone who is a practitioner of these arts, I'm very much aware of the need to come up with myths, and I mean myths in the high sense, as a horizon of meaning for a people, and that has to take into account technology, media, earth, politics. So a lot of us are in the process of that. I mean, there's a lot of languages out there, a lot of programs, and I think we're still finding our way through to a better place. And it's true that you get to, I guess, live out something if you're in the shamanic worldview that perhaps other people don't, because you are more attuned to beauty and connection and community, empowering communities, and that's a good thing. But most of the people I roll with are very much involved in activism, whether it's in arts, music. They consciously try to create scenes where some kind of illumination is going on, or point to politics that are inherently destructive to each other and the planet. So it's like anything else, man. I mean, I think quality varies, depth varies. So the main thing is you find something that moves your heart and inspires you to contribute.
I know you have a lot of music that you've created, and before we got on, I was listening to, I don't know if it's pronouncing it correctly, charango?
Oh, charango, yeah, man. Woo!
So I wanted to ask you why it seems that music is a big part of shamanism and maybe some of the ceremonies, and why would you say that is? Why is music so important to it?
I think one of the things that remains a mystery, and there's all kinds of speculation on why is the whole notion of frequencies and intensities. It can deliver that in a way that language can't. So there's an immediacy to it that often will surpass words and concepts. So part of that is part of the power is just that you're no longer involved in a conceptual plane, but in an emotional plane, and music can move you into different heart spaces. So I think that's part of it, is the sheer immediacy of your body spontaneously responding to a groove, to a melody. I mean, one of the most important teachers I had is a guy named Bradford Keeney, and I work with him, and he taught me about shaking medicine. And shaking medicine is like one of the oldest medicines on the planet. It's the African shamans, man. They just start, the drums start, and they just start to shake their bodies, and man, you do that for 10, 15 minutes, and you will definitely connect to the ropes, to the gods, So I think there's something in our embodiment that's just a natural gift, and we're lucky we can do that,
Yeah.
Do you play an instrument?
Do I play an instrument? No, just in my head I do. No, I don't. I don't play any instruments, no.
Cool. So do you have a mode of expression that is in your body? I mean, do you dance? Do you do 5 rhythms? Do you just, go in your backyard and roll in the grass? I mean...
I would probably do a little bit of dancing just when no one's around. I completely agree with what you were saying about music. I don't know what it is. It just takes you to another place, a higher place. And some of the times that I'm feeling the best is when I'm listening to music that I really like. You just can't beat it.
You can't, man. There's something. I mean, John McLaughlin, the guitar master, the way he phrased it, he said, music is the way the gods is the language of the gods. That's how the gods communicate music.
You said John McLaughlin? Is that what you said, John McLaughlin?
Yeah, the guitar player.
Maharishi Orchestra or something like that. Yeah.
Mahavishnu Orchestra.
Yeah, Mahavishnu Orchestra. That's right. All right.
Yeah. So, and that's the thing, music communicates in intensities, in colors, in tones, silences. It's a whole different immediate power that it has, and so vibration. There we go. So it's a beautiful mystery, I'm glad that I can participate in it at times with some coherence.
So, Shana, I want to ask you with regards to the music, because you said you use your body as a vessel. If you can explain, I'm sure there's a total feeling that can't be explained, but if you can give an overview of what's it like when you are in the middle of a session and you start using your body as a vessel.
Okay, but right before that, just hear one thing. We're going to play. Alberto's going to play something.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So when I said, thank you for asking. When I said I use my body as a vessel, it's also kind of a tuning fork. I mean, when the experience I've had with sound within like ceremonies and just in general is that your body's activated in a certain way. It's kind of repatterned. It's kind of like the ikaros that one hears oftentimes in ceremonies are beautiful sonic transmissions that actually repattern and reweave your body in different ways. You're the energy of yourself, of your soul. I've experienced that firsthand, and so sound vibration I've experienced as one of the most healing things, one of the most healing forms of the arts. And then often I'll use my voice, and I never thought I would use my voice ever until I was with Alberto in ceremony, and he helped me activate my voice in that setting, and that was an incredible gift for me, because growing up I often had problems with my throat, and there was a lot going on at that time, and I would choke on things, I would have throat problems, and then in ceremony it was so healing for me to actually create these notes from my throat, from my body, and to move also to the sounds that were that Alberto and others were creating. So that's been an incredible transformational gift.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
What about Dave? Hey, is Dave there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, Dave's here.
Hey, me. Remember that Cheech and Chong routine, or maybe you guys, it's a reference you guys will not get. You remember Dave's Not Here routine with Cheech and Chong? No, never mind, guys. Look it up sometime if you're feeling a little bit nostalgic for early '60s marijuana hippie humor.
Yeah, you went back on that one, dude.
Yeah. I'm very familiar with that. I was fortunate enough to see them live in concert in the 70s, and then after the concert, we got to meet them in their dressing room.
No kidding.
Yeah, it was great.
Humor is medicine, man, Humor is great medicine. Wonderful.
They were so cool. We knocked on there because at the time my grandfather was running the concession stand, so I was probably about 10, and it was my aunt and another cousin of mine, and we went backstage and we knocked on their door, and someone said, "Come in." We walked in, and it was just the two of them sitting there just rapping, and we were like, "Oh, can we get some autographs?" Like, "Oh yeah, come on in." And then we probably were there for about 20 minutes just talking with them.
Oh my, amazing, man! Thank you for connecting me with that.
Yeah. It was great.
Yeah.
I'll never forget it. Yeah.
Nice.
Something I wanted to ask you. Let me ask this real quick thing. When you're creating music, is it something you sit down and say, okay, I'm going to, write a song or create a song, or is it just something that, you could just be driving and something just starts coming to you?
Yeah, that's a great question, man. That's the whole question of channeling,
Yeah.
And it is, I when I'm in ceremony, I follow the same suggestion. I tell the participants to become a hollow bone. So I try to be as empty as possible and play and respond to the group. So there are certain songs or xochicuicames, as they're called in the Mesoamerican tradition, flower songs that I do to kind of consecrate the space, to open up spaces, and to maintain a certain intelligence in the circle. After that, it's pretty much responding spontaneously to what's happening in the community at that time. So if I feel we might need some bowls, I'll play some bowls, or a flute if it's necessary, or a chant, or sometimes it's silence. So it's pretty much an open intelligence around that. So yeah, it's a great question. I do, however, have a few pieces that are just part of the sacramental quality of the ceremony. A lot of them are my own. A lot of them I inherited from teachers I've had that they inherit. So I try to preserve certain lineages in my practice.
Oh, okay. Oh, do you yourself? What instruments do you play?
I can play guitar, charango, flutes, percussion, bowls, shakers, chacapas, keyboards. I can find voice in a lot of different instruments. So some I play, I think, more articulately and with more articulation and elegance than others. But it also depends on a given night and context. So I'm fairly conversant in a lot of instruments.
Cool.
Do you guys play?
I don't play. I love the bass guitar and bass guitar enthusiast, from that instrument, but I don't play. No, I don't.
Cool. Well, if you can listen to music, you're a musician, right? I mean, it takes one to know one, so you can appreciate the practice of it.
Yeah.
I want to point something out for those of you who have different understandings of shamanism. Shamanism is a certain kind of deals with different kinds of materialities. Some are very subtle, some are very, very, let's say, denser. But don't you find it weird that I'm speaking to you and I'm coming and I'm showing up disembodied as a sound wave? I'm only existing as a sound in your head. My body's not there, and there's this wave that's carrying me, and vice versa. Don't you find it supremely weird and strange and a beautiful example of the magic of science?
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't agree more.
Anyway, I've been into that. Go on, I'm sorry.
Okay. What were you saying, Hamza?
No, I was just saying, traveling to all these beautiful places and very scenic, and you meet some wonderful people. I was just wondering more so about the community here in Atlanta and what's it like.
Yeah, great question. I mean, I think one of the things that I've liked is that there is a global shamanic culture, and we're all in our own way trying to shape-shift the momentum of our times. So locally is where we show up and express ourselves. One of the things that I've been thinking about recently is that we need to – Atlanta is still too separate in the practices. I mean, we have a really strong African community here, and Nubian magic, pyramid magic. And then we have all these people from Central America and Mexico with their heritage, with Mayan magic, and then you even have people in South America, and of course the Anglo-white Celtic traditions. We need a way to really work together in that setting, and maybe create a new kind of language, because even though there's intersections at times in certain groups or at certain festivals, it kind of stays to their own group. So we still have not found a way to unite it. I had this fantasy of having all these different traditions just show up at an art gallery, or create the event where we have representatives from all the cultures in Atlanta, and we create this invisible, gigantic, energetic pyramid that'll float over Atlanta, bringing blessings and bestowing protection over the city. And it kind of hovers around, and if you're ever in some kind of bind or want inspiration, know that the pyramid is there looking out for you. That's what I want.
The closest thing to that I can think of is for Labor Day here in Atlanta, over at Grant Park, they have this thing called House in the Park, since we're talking about music. And
that is great.
Were you guys there for that?
Oh yeah, man.
I mean, that's like the closest thing of in Atlanta that I've seen as far as a unification of so many different cultures.
You're right, man. That's it. And I think that we need to do more of that. And even and that could be a great platform, to stage something even at a bigger level of it. I mean, I sweated my prayers out that day. For sure.
I mean, there's a lot of. Did you take part of any drumming circles out there for that?
I used to, man. Early on, when I started out, I used to do that a lot. I mean, you do and you learn. So, like in any practice, you get in and you log in the miles. So very early on. Now I don't, just because my energy and my intention is elsewhere. So I know there's a few in town. And what I'm even more enthusiastic about is that I'm seeing, a new generation of practitioners showing up, and that's encouraging. So the lineages are surviving. The thing about Atlanta is that the people with money, unlike L.A. or New York or other bigger cities, are not investing in these other alternative art histories and practices. Mm-hmm. So the support that would bring Atlanta to a whole new different level of consciousness is not totally there, because of the way the art collectors and the curators invest their capital. So that remains a challenge for us who are practicing these alternatives, communities and societies.
That sounds like a really good homework assignment, to have that cross collaboration. Could you talk a little bit about events that you and Shana put on here, and maybe this can be a platform where we can start marrying the two cultures together, where we're seeing that we have more in common than opposite.
Yeah. Well, usually I have two vehicles that I do that through. I have my latest one is called the Nomadic Love Mesa. And that is definitely I bring musicians from different lineages, and we create sonicscapes, and then we offer a ritual to a community to open up a portal, to open up a way of being with each other, to connect with the higher frequency, upper registers of human development. So we'll use sculpture, dance, different things. So, and Shana and I have done a lot of that. I mean, the first time that Shana and I collaborated with this beautiful performance called Ikura at the goat farm. And it came to me in a vision. I was in Bali, and I had been traveling for a while. Then I came to the States, and I was activating circles with this guy named Jose Campos throughout the States, doing aya ceremonies. And the whole thing was a download, man, the music. But I had Shana dressed in this awesome gear, running on a treadmill for an hour, while these incredible visuals were on the screen, and I had dancers, and we started out with Ravel's Bolero, and it was just gorgeous. So I think that's the way to do it, is to bring different cultural folks and stage it. We just got to get the people who are in the leadership of this to agree on a time and a place and start doing it. Shana, you have a view on this?
Yeah.
I don't want to monopolize the conversation.
Most recently, Alberto and I collaborated at the Zuckerman Museum, which is at Costa. It's a show. There's a show there. It's on until the beginning of December, called Medium, and it deals with how people interconnect or communicate with the spirit world. A lot of it is related to kind of the phantasmagoria and the early 1900s scientific studies on spiritualism. But the piece the installation that I did, and then the performance that Alberto and I collaborated on, is a more of a cross-cultural shamanic presentation. It was, and we, on the opening night, we did this performance where I sat on a ritual mat with all of my objects in front of a large-scale projection of the visual, the videos that I've done over the past 9 years in different natural locations, unique locations. And so Alberto came into the space while I was sitting there and dropped these shells onto a musical instrument that he has.
That sounds like this.
Yeah. Yeah. So he came in and dropped these shells, and then activated a movement where other allies came into the room, other performers, and actually took costumes off of the wall that I had created and put them on their bodies. And then paintings were also carried through the room as Alberto played. So it was like a visual and sonic transmission at once with these paintings and the sound that he used on a vibratone, which was pretty amazing.
Does that answer your question, or I mean, I'm not sure we got to what you were getting at, or does it?
No, it does. I was just looking at different ways that you guys are bringing this into the vernacular of the layman here. So especially from the being a professor at Georgia State, I'm just thinking of how you're reaching out and educating people about just the resources they have in their backyard. So you said the Kennesaw event, I mean, that's ongoing until December?
Yeah, I think it's December 3rd, if I'm not mistaken. It ends then, and it's a beautiful space if you haven't been over to Zuckerman Museum. It's pretty amazing.
I mean, the challenge is that art can be revelatory or transformative and healing, and there's not, and the contemporary art apparatus of Atlanta is calibrated to a particular view of art. So like I said, if we were in California or New York or Paris or Argentina, Buenos Aires, the investment is in art is of a different kind,
Yeah.
So Atlanta still has not, for whatever reasons, supported the art that's coming from transformational practices.
But I think all of us here are creating, we're culture creatives. We're actually creating, the scene in Atlanta now as we speak. So it's growing and changing now, and I think that's amazing to be a part of that.
And thank you guys for at least opening a space for us to talk about it, because Atlanta is going to keep growing. There's going to be more diversity coming, and we need artists and thinkers to find a way not to entertain, but also to create a bigger myth for Atlanta than just being a merchant city or a corporate city. I mean, it's one of the challenges I think we have if we want to make this city really be what it can be, given the variety folks that dwell here. I mean, Atlanta's got an amazing diversity that gets, that doesn't get talked about really, but it's there. It's charged. Did you know that in the botanical gardens, in their tropical sections, there's a huge ayahuasca vine growing there, holding space, emanating? Did you know that?
No, wow. Not at all.
Yeah, man. That's where I go, man. That's where I go. That's why I turn molecular and go inside the vine, man, and come out and do my hoops. Home base. Here.
Well, I wanted to ask you, since we're so close, we just finished Halloween season, and that's usually known as the veil being the thinnest of the year. Did you guys have any ceremonies for Halloween, or did you notice that the veil was a lot thinner and you got greater communication at that time?
Shana?
Where were we on Halloween? I'm trying to remember. We went to...
Well, it did for me. I've had some recent deaths in my family, and so the question of the veil has been very, very much in the forefront. So for me, yeah, it varies in what shows up. But for me, it's been a great connection to source. I've had experiences of source in the last few weeks that I have never had before, and it gives me, in a way, it kind of validates that all the work we go through, the ordeals, the different technologies we use to be well and whole do show up. It's the linearity of it might not be what we like, but eventually there's an opening. And you get to savor light and truth and vitality and the deep, juicy stream that makes us be here. It's really great. So for me, it's been like that. It's been that kind of opening, light and delicious and deep and an assurance that life goes on no matter what. Even after we go, life wants more life, man. So I'm into that.
And one thing I love about Halloween is that strangers just come to your door wearing costumes. I mean, to me, that's incredible. And you open the door,
Exactly. I'm thinking of April, and some stranger comes to your door. Would you open it?
It's true, yeah.
Yeah.
Lovely thing.
So do you guys put on events?
This year? Did you see something this year that really said, okay, that's spot on?
Well, we just had that new moon, and I think for Halloween and the week following, I think I've just witnessed some residuals. So I want to get your opinion on this too, since you've been in the space for some time. You just have greater access, so you don't necessarily have to wait for a point in time per se. It's more of like you're just open, and when communication wants to happen.
That's it, brother. You got it.
Right?
You got it. You got it, man. You have been initiated into the non-linear, non-causal dimensions of the Hyperon, as the Greeks call it, man. Yeah, it changes, man. I mean, the thing about the four directions, often they'll invoke something to the south, something to the west, east, north. That's really a convention, man. I mean, the powers are everywhere. Yeah, so you're spot on, bro. Good for you. The dancing paid off, see?
So how can people get into this dancing if they're wallflowers and all? I'd love for them to know more about any shows or different events that you guys are having. What do you guys have on the calendar before the end of the year?
I don't have anything scheduled publicly at this time. Most of what I'm going to do till the end of the year are going to be private ceremonies, and there I usually invite folks to move a little bit if the energy's there. I got invited to sit in with the band at the Decatur Healing Arts Festival, which I think is November 18th. So I got together with a couple of guys I've played with before, and we're going to offer music and sonic sacred sounds, and I know through that the opportunity to dance will show up. So if you guys want to try that out, you know, and sometimes standing still, you're doing a lot of movement too. You know, a lot of it is the inner voyage.
Oh, I love cutting a rug. So.
All right.
And you might not think so since I said cutting a rug, but.
Hey, you know, let out your secret Elaine, you know, whatever.
Yeah, that's my favorite dance. Then you know I'm in the zone if I'm doing the Elaine.
Dude, you know, actually, you know, 50 years from now, that might be like, we'll all look at it, you know, as anthropologists and say, wow, that was the dance. Because it totally broke with rhythm. It totally chopped up the body, you know, and its asymmetry and its jerkiness. So who knows? Who knows how it'll show up, you know? I have faith in these things. You never know how the lines work.
You never know, man. You never know. What are some websites that people can check you guys out and learn more information about? You may not have anything major happening to the end of the year, but they can stay abreast of upcoming events. Yeah,
I'll go first. There's a site called Sonic Fables, sonicfables.podomatic.com. I have a really nice archive there of music I've made throughout the years, and I still load stuff up. I have a little blog called Soul9 Blogspot that I sometimes will use to Soul SOL to hey kitty, we have my friend, one of my feral cats just walked in. I have that, and then on my Facebook page, Alberto Roman, there's some of my visual art that I like to do, and I'll hand it over to Shana while I take care of my feral cat here.
Hi, yeah, my website is shanarobbinsart.com, and it's SHANAROBBINS art.com, and it has a lot of some performances, some video performances, some paintings, some of the multimedia work, and I'm still trying to update, figure out how to do the updates on upcoming events. So I'll be adding that soon, and we'll be we do a lot of social media with Facebook, and I do Instagram as well. I'm on Instagram. I'm Snakes and Lace, all one word, Snakes and Lace, LACE.
Well, nice. I'm going to follow you on that.
What about you guys? What are you guys up to? Are you like touring?
Yeah, we're booked through the end of the year. We're touring all over the place.
We actually did have a talk about going to Peru. We were looking at in January. We're looking at potentially the end of January. We're doing a collaboration with our sister school, which is the Boulder Psychic Institute in Colorado. So most of our stuff we're looking at as far as travel is 2018.
Oh, that'll be excellent, man. There's nothing like getting outside the national borders and seeing how other people live. It really does recalibrate your perception,
Oh, yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Safe travel.
Probably most importantly, I got to jump on the foam board out by Nasara for sure.
Yes, man, that is. Ride the wave. There's all kinds of beautiful metaphors that can come from that, There's a lot of teachings in the water, in earth, in the sky, yeah. Oh, man, great, yeah. Well, I hope to meet you guys in a more embodied form and not this sound wave, and we can all hang out. And, if people are interested in some of the work I've been talking about, they can always just send me a message through Sonic Fables, and I can connect them with all kinds of beautiful communities here that are doing some deep spiritual work,
Great, fantastic. We are at the top of the hour now, so I do definitely want to thank both Alberto and Shana for making our wonderful podcast today. You have been in tune to Intrinsic Motivation from a Homie's Perspective. This is Hamza.
And I'm David.
And thanks again, guys, and we look forward to catching up with you in short order.
Beautiful people. Thank you so much.
Thank
you. You're very welcome. Thank you.
Okay. Pura vida.
Pura vida.
Pura vida. Baby.
Thanks again for checking out another episode of Intrinsic Motivation from a Homie's Perspective podcast. Please check us out on our website at intrinsicmotivation.life, where you can click on the Speak Pipe button and leave any suggestions for future podcasts that you'd like us to cover. Also, check us out on our social media sites. We have a YouTube channel, Facebook page, iTunes podcast, in addition to Stitcher and Google Play, all under Intrinsic Motivation from a Homie's Perspective. Check you out next time. Have a great day.